Super good with tech, thankfully. There are a number of people at my school that are really, really good with tech. I work at a middle school. All the middle schoolers are way better at tech than me. It's not even close. So I did this. I was in your guys' seat, gal seat, everyone's seat a couple years ago down in Coralville, Iowa. Just an amazing experience. Really enjoyed it. When I thought about it as I continued this process, what can I provide? I'm not a college coach. I'm not an Olympian. I was a very below average college wrestler. Been doing this for 30 years. Love what I do. Love working with kids every day, making connections. So some of the stuff I'm going to talk about is ways we've built connections, built community, built capacity, not only in our coaches, our kids, everybody else. I always find it amazing how sometimes the worlds are really, really small. Coach Ruiz going through his process on the mat about Greco and not being scary. When he talked about Coach Barrero, I was super fortunate when Coach Barrero first left Cuba. He came, I don't know how, he ended up in Appleton, Wisconsin. I walk in one day and our head coach at Aviators goes, "We got this new guy, you're going to love him." Coach Barrero didn't speak an ounce of English. None of us spoke Spanish. So some learning curves. Coach Barrero right away starts showing some Greco technique. He's going through some of those same lifts. I'm not a little guy. Long time ago I was, not little anymore. Coach Barrero's like a $150, $155, maybe tops. I'm flat. We're not exactly sure what he's talking about, but he was very clearly putting me down in parterre. In about 2 seconds, I am chest high. He has got me reverse lifted, and I'm going, I'm about to die. I'm grabbing anything and yelling, "No, no, 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 we're not throwing coach." And he like sets me down, looks confused, and I'm pointing, I'm like, "You can throw any of the little guys. Like, this body and age is not designed. I will not land well, or I won't be getting up." So just kind of funny how some of the worlds are very small. Really neat to see him doing, having success. Some of that simple like arm drag stuff. We had 2 kids at my high school were U16 Greco All-Americans last year, predominantly with very, very basic things. The one guy, it took us a while he wanted to soup everybody in the first 5 seconds, and their matches, Preston would score 15 points and he would give up 14. And like the amount of gray hair he was giving everybody in panic, so we finally got him to shrink down maybe and wait to do those bigger moves when it fit. So just kind of neat how it fits. Some of the things I do, I teach at New London High School, or I'm associate principal at New London. Is anyone from Wisconsin? One? All right, perfect. My neck of the woods. New London's a town of about 7,000. In Wisconsin, we're a Division II school. So Division I is all the large schools. Division II are schools that are like 700 to 500 kids-ish. And then D3 is smaller. It's, it's not exact science, but roughly. Also work with the girls' national team, U14 duels, all that good stuff. So last year, as soon as our middle school our school year was done, I got on a bus 2 days later, went out with the U14 boys for a week out in Pennsylvania. Like, this is just kind of what I love to do. I'm fortunate. My wife is a saint, takes care of our 4 kids when I'm doing all sorts of random adventures, supports me and really encourages me to share what I love doing. So give you just a little brief about me. I think we figured out the technology. We'll just make this work one slide at a time. My family, it's an older picture. My kids are getting older. My oldest is 22. I got a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 7-year-old, but I like to pretend they're a little younger because then they got to live with me a little bit longer. We have 3 dogs. Upper right-hand picture, our middle school. One of the blessings, you can kind of be a goofy person at a middle school. Do we have any middle school coaches? Okay, you're saints. Because working with them all day, I'm going to be honest, at the end of the day, I am thankful when I get in my vehicle, go up to the high school to work with the high school kids for a couple hours at practice. I need a little breather from middle school at the end of the day, I'm not going to lie. But my head principal, Mrs. Pinch, is one of the most intelligent, caring people I know. Mr. Murch just finished his 40th year in education. He is retiring. Talk about a heart of gold. My wife and I had this great idea, like, I don't know, she watches a lot of those restore a farm home type places, our shows. We have lived in the city. I grew up in the country, but we had lived in the city for like 20 years. She found a place like 2 miles from my school. We bought a 100-year-old property. We've been messing with that for the last 2 years. It's like a full-time job, and it looks a lot easier on TV. But little bit about myself. Some of the places I've coached, experiences. Grew up in East Troy, big town of 3,000 people. East Troy in Wisconsin was a huge wrestling school in the 80s, 90s. I came in 2000s, had a lot of fun. Went to Oshkosh, a couple hours away, far enough away that I was independent and had to grow up a little bit. Close enough I could do my laundry at home every couple of weeks back at my parents'. Help out with Wisconsin Wrestling Federation. Then Aviators has a elementary program, middle school program, guys and girls, high school program. So like to stay involved, like to stay active. Some of my coaching. Has anyone ever done a co-op school? Worked in a co-op, multiple schools? Can be a little bit challenging, right? So one of the things that I didn't get, everyone knows Green Bay, Wisconsin, or heard of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Green Bay has 4 public high schools. All of them are 1,200 plus kids. When I got to Green Bay and I started teaching, I didn't get why Green Bay wasn't just destroying everybody, just from a sheer numbers standpoint. Then when I got there, my first athletic director, I started in September. I got hired like 3 days before school started. I was a first-year teacher. I'm 22. The first week of school, he goes, "Hey, I heard from our principal you wrestled in high school and you've got interest in coaching." I said, "Absolutely." And he goes, "We're going to meet in my office." He tells me for like 45 minutes why I should not coach at that school. The school, it was a rough school. It was an inner city school, but he basically said the kids aren't going to listen. The program's terrible. We're very close to dropping it. And then at the end he goes, "But if you think you can fix it, as long as you don't hurt a kid, I really don't care what you do." I kind of walked back to my classroom going, one, yes, I want to coach, but like, I'm a first-year person. I don't know if he's telling me, don't do this, you're going to get yourself in trouble, whatever it was, but I did it. So I wrangled up a handful of kids. They had never wrestled. And we end up in one of the best conferences in the state, is of course what our schedule is. And those boys got pummeled every single duel, and they kept coming back though. And then the next year, when I felt like we gained a little traction, then they decide 3 schools are now co-oping instead of the 2 schools. So now you're coordinating 3 schools from different parts of the city. No transportation, because we're not going to provide that. Kids will figure it out on their own. Trying to get it to work. I'm going to share some of the things that we'll talk about: building connections, capacity, community. Took us a few years, but in years 7, 8, 9, we started winning conference titles. In like years 3 and 4, we started sending some kids to state, did some awesome things. I made the foolish mistake after probably a 10-year really good run. Got this great idea. Are there any athletic directors in the room? No? Yeah? Okay, you're a saint. I got this great idea after I built a program. They had me do the AD job in my building for 1 year. The AD left. The day of a football game, they needed someone to come in. Our principal goes, "You are the only coach in this room or in the building that's had a winning record in 20 years. I need you to do this for the year." Okay, I know a handful of things. I know social studies, wrestling, and how to eat. Like, I don't know anything else. So like, I'm watching football and I'm going, it looks cool, but I don't know what to tell them. I'm watching basketball and I'm really have no idea what to tell them. They should be wrestling, not playing basketball. So did it for a year. I actually enjoyed it. They also let me keep coaching though. And then I got a call from one of the largest schools in the state saying, "We want you to come be our athletic director." And my first question was, "Can I keep coaching?" And they're like, "Yes, absolutely." So I'm like, okay. They gave me a real big raise. It was closer to my house. Sounded great. I'm there for 2 weeks. Then they say, "You're not coaching." They're like, "We decided there's too many events. There's too many things. That's not an option." So I did it for 1 year. I was away from the sport. My wife said I was the worst human being in the world for that year, that clearly I was not that interested in the other activities, which I, to be perfectly honest, wasn't. She goes, "You need to get back involved in coaching." So I went from being an AD back to teaching. My kids actually went into Appleton schools. 2 weeks before their season, they didn't have a coach. I knew their AD. He called me. I gave him all sorts of ideas on people that could do it. And then he goes, "Why don't you just do it?" And I was kind of afraid to ask my wife because I thought she was going to chew my butt. So I was wanting to do it, but a little afraid to ask. She says, go do it. They were in the same situation my previous school was, just like 10 years behind. There were 4 kids that wrestled the year before. I went and talked to football. I talked to the kids. All the kids were like, kids cut weight. Everyone's going to cut weight. I shared with them, well, you don't know how to wrestle. Why would you cut weight? You don't know how to wrestle. Like that seems, we're going to learn how to wrestle. We're going to learn how to compete. We're going to have fun. Ended up having 30 plus kids. They did just an amazing job competing every day. Kind of sometimes life throws you curveballs. Ended up out in New London. It's about 30 minutes west. Nice, rural, local. Ended up becoming a head women's wrestling coach. If someone would have told me when I was growing up, you're going to be coaching women's wrestling at some point, I'm old enough that you could go seasons without seeing a female wrestling in high school. It was not common at all. And to go to girls' events, this is really Wisconsin's 4th. They had their 4th state title, 3rd at the Kohl Center with the boys. It has grown exponentially. So I'm not sure where your states are at, but it is definitely booming in Wisconsin, which is really neat to see. One of my big questions: did you find wrestling or did wrestling find you? And this used to not matter to me until I started coaching and thought, how do I get kids, especially in Green Bay? You're trying to get a high school kid who has never wrestled before. You're trying to convince them to come do something that's harder than anything they've ever done, wearing a singlet and potentially getting their butt handed to them in front of maybe only 5 people, but when you get better, it could be a whole gym full of people watching this. So just thinking to yourself for a minute, because we'll do some sharing. I don't want to do all the talking, that's for sure. We'll have some time to talk because there's a lot of great minds that know a whole lot more than I do. I started wrestling because I didn't want to get my butt kicked by my younger brother. My brother came home one day. I was in 6th grade. I remember him coming home. He's 4 years younger than me, but he was bigger than me as a 2nd grader, which was ridiculous. And he started wrestling. And he's like, I can take you down. I'm like, there's no way you can take me down. That's never going to happen. And he took me down in like 3 seconds. And then I couldn't get up. So I was getting real mad. And I'm like, my dad, 2 days later, I remember he's like, I'm taking your brother to wrestling. I said, I'm going to. And he's like, seriously, you're going? I'm like, yes. Started wrestling. I ended up loving it. My brother tolerated it. So it was kind of funny how we went different paths. But just thinking about how does that impact and where that matters, how does this impact you as a coach? Think of some of the reasons that you've talked with kids and why they're actually out. How you make that connection with them. How many of you, just show hands, how many did a relative, a brother, a sister, someone get you in the sport? That's just what your family did. How many got a flyer from some random teacher at school and said, I think you'd be good at this? Have any of you coaches ever written a note on a kid's homework? I used to get, I recruited kids who had good grades because I knew we were going to be bad wrestlers. So I was like, at least I want the smart kids so they're eligible. I'd have kids, and of course you're doing it strategically by weight, but I'd have kids. I chose to teach all the freshman classes. And I would write, I had this kid, I'll never forget, Justin. Justin was like 90 pounds. I think as a senior, he was so pumped because this was back in the days of 103. He weighed 102 in a dual his senior year. He was so pumped that he hit 102. He was like, Coach, I'm bulking up. And we're like, you are, Justin. But he was a straight A kid. He was by far the best student I had in freshman civics. And I wrote, Justin, you should really be wrestling. There's a great weight class for you. You're going to fit in. And I wrote it on every one of his assignments. And every day I would tell him, Justin, I'm going to see you in November. You're going to wrestle. You're going to do great. I may have lied about the do great part, but we got there eventually. And Justin came out, and his parents were so darn excited that he was doing something, and he was a great student, but it gave him a connection. So some of it's finding, just the way you started, it might not relate to your kids at all. It might. It could be a variety of reasons why your kids. So just 30 seconds at the table, and I know Sharon sometimes is like, oh my God, we're going to share. You got to talk to each other. Yes, we do. We're going to get out of our comfort zone a little bit. It's going to be great for all of us. Just briefly share at your table. I'll give you 30 seconds. How did you end up starting? How did this work for you? So we got 30 seconds.
I know yours. I'll just tell you. My brother's wrestling. Because he was in wrestling practice. That I was 9. I am the starter. Yeah. Oh yeah. We didn't get dropped off at whatever school. We'll be back in 2 hours. I love it.
We'll come back in 10. Coming back in 5. All right, back as a whole group. I know it was quick. I will give you more time in a minute, I promise. So what I appreciate, thank you for taking 2 minutes to share. I really do appreciate it. There's a ton of excitement. A lot of people, you're giving up a ton of time. Some of you, does anyone else hate flying? I hate flying. It's like the worst. One of the only things that I dislike more than flying, I had an MRI a few weeks ago. MRI is worse than flying in my opinion. But outside of that, I'm petrified of heights. Just not good with it. But everybody, you're taking time, commitment, everything, giving up your time, appreciate it. There's a passion, there's an excitement. You're going to have kids that have that same excitement. You'll have coaches that have that same excitement. Sometimes you have kids that come out, they're not that interested. They're out at social. I had a kid one year, he joined because he said he liked the t-shirt. And he just really wanted to have a t-shirt, but to get the t-shirt, he needed to be on the team because it was the team shirt. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Let's figure this out. Some of the things that we've really focused on, and I'm not going to go over all of it, and I'm more than happy to share everything with anybody. I beg, borrow, take whatever you want, make it your own. When I thought about the big things we do, connections, community, capacity, and kind of like all the coaches have said already, a lot of this is all linked. It's hard to pull out one piece that's all kind of related to each other. But we're going to talk about those pieces a little bit, what that looks like. And honestly, the communication piece is the center. Right. My wife is way more intelligent than me. She does HR and teach. She would hate me for HR, but she does teaching with adults and everything. She's great with computers. I'm not. When I looked at what is our program, what's it really all about? How does it work? Relationships are what starts. We're recruiting, we're developing, we focus on transitions. The C, I'll be honest, she told me don't mess with it after she was done with it. I messed with it on the way here because I wasn't going to do it in front of her, except I couldn't figure out how to get that to say communications in the middle that was legible. So the C stands for communication. That's the glue that holds it all together. But I was afraid to do that in front of her because I knew she was going to yell at me. So I will adamantly deny if she sees that I had any involvement with that. I will turn right into a middle school kid so fast. I saw nothing, I know nothing. We start with relationships. And I know, I'll be honest, as a young teacher, young coach, I was like, I don't care if they like me or not. Everyone cares to a certain extent. You don't want a kid to be miserable and hate you. But as I got older, a little more gray hair, I realized how valuable, how important that part actually was. Some of the kids, wrestling is something they love, it'll be their life. Some of the kids, they're out for a season, they have different reasons they do it. You want to make it great for them. I tell a lot of stories. We try to have fun, have a sense of humor. You got to show your care. Coach talked a great job about it. 90 kids in a program, they know he cares. They know he's got expectations. The best advice I ever got in education, I'll never forget, I taught 1 year at the military school in Delafield. Clearly would not have met many of the requirements of the military, but I enjoyed it. Great mentor, this guy Fernando Perez, who came from Colombia. He was in like their special forces. I was definitely afraid of him because I know he could have killed people and he could have killed me. It took him 3 seconds. But the first day I started, he goes, Josh, you have to do one thing while you're here. And I'm thinking like, don't lose a kid. I felt like that was going to be the answer, but it wasn't. He said, be yourself, everyone else is taken. He goes, they'll either love you, they won't, but you have to be yourself. So that's one of the things I've really stressed with anyone that coaches in the program, with all of the kids. Because sometimes a kid is trying so hard to fit in, but that's not really who they are. Sometimes you get that kid who's out there a little bit. They got to be themselves. Be there through good times and tough times. Share some good times. We'll share a few tough times. I want everyone in the program, we really push, everyone's got value. Some of the biggest success stories we've had, one of our biggest success stories is a kid who never won a match. And sometimes that's what a success story is. Oops, almost forgot the last one. Really work to do the same thing. Everyone feels valued with your assistant coaches, volunteers, spouses. My wife is a baker. I was a lot skinnier till we got married, and all the baking hasn't helped. But the assistant coaches, how do you utilize them? What do they get to have leadership in? I've been in programs where the head coach shows everything. They blow that whistle. Everyone goes and disperses and does moves. Assistant coach will help a little bit. They've never shown a thing all year. They've never had a chance to make some of those decisions in the coaching chair, to practice plan, whatever it is. Try to make sure people are feeling valued, part of something. We invite teachers to the duels. I've had some teachers that love it and they come back. I've had teachers that go, that is not my sport. Perfect. You tried it. That's all we ask. One of the things, leverage, and I promise I'll give you time to talk on this one. Leverage relationships in recruiting. Not every kid's going to want to wrestle, but every kid can have some type of connection to that program. Two of my biggest, I would say, successes. This 113-pound animal is my son. I met Nolan when he was 5. Nolan's biological dad it didn't really work, didn't happen. Got married to his mom. When I met Nolan, Nolan did not really talk. He was in diapers, and it looked like we were in for a long road. By the time Nolan got to high school, finished high school with almost a 4.0 GPA, he wrestled, he did the plays, the musicals. He is off in college. He is doing some pretty amazing things. That was his own hard work. He is his own man. We give him every opportunity. We've worked really, really hard to help put him up for success. Nolan hates sports. He is very adamant. He hates sweating. And I'm like, okay. One day he comes home and he's like, hey, Dad, you know how you've been talking about there's no kids? You know, it looks like you're not going to have a 113-pounder this year. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you know, some kids at school. I'm like, we've been checking. It's not panning out. He goes, yeah, I got a guy. And I'm like, all right, who is it? He's like, I'll do it. And I'm like, my first question was, is Mom going to let you do this? And he's like, well, I can do this. Nolan, he's got on the spectrum, whistles are really, really tough for him, loud noises. We have patted his headgear so full of, and my wife's like, he's not going to hear you when you're coaching. And I'm like, oh, don't worry. We're not going to need to worry about that part because I don't think it's going to matter. But we packed Nolan's headgear so full of stuff. Nolan has an incredible singing voice. He sang all the national anthems for us. He would come off high-fiving the kids in the lineup. He was so pumped. We wrestled him in duels when it was appropriate. We did not throw him out to everything. Halfway through the season, it took us to get through that first period the first time. It's just, athletics were not for him. But he loved it. He sings. He still cruises around town when he comes back with his New London wrestling stuff on. One of the duels, I don't even exactly know what happened. A kid picked him up, which was occasionally a common theme when Nolan would wrestle. Nolan reached around. He's got really long arms, somehow landed on top in a cradle. And you've got 30 kids on the sideline going buck wild like Nolan is getting back points. Half the time, Nolan didn't know if he won or lost. He got off the mat. He was convinced he won. I mean, no one was telling him he didn't because he was so darn excited. The kids were so pumped. Joe was a kid, the 1 year I coached at a different school, I was going through the halls and I heard a kid yelling that he was really effing pissed. And I'm like, he walks out and I needed a 220-pounder and I looked at him and I'm like, he's got to be pretty darn close. And I'm like, hey, come here, big fella, let's talk. The teacher looked at me and goes, this is a terrible idea. And I'm going, I've had bad ideas, but I was like, I think I can handle this. I take him up to the wrestling room. I let him throw some wrestling dummies around. Joe decides I'm a wrestler. Joe was just a couple matches away from the state tournament in his first year wrestling. He was a senior. He was just one of those big, strong, athletic kids who was not afraid of anything. It's one of those kids you're going, if you could have got him a few years when he was younger, who knows what, could have potentially happened. But at your tables, because I think I've talked more than enough, one of the couple questions, recruiting and relationships, I think are huge. Who are you recruiting? And I know you have different programs. I know some of you have college programs. Some of you are on senior level programs. You have different things. Some of you are middle school. We might have elementary club coaches. Who are you recruiting? Any tips, successes, or let's try that again that you're like, oh, that didn't quite work out, that you can share for the greater good of the people at your table? I know when I first coached in Green Bay, I was just going to recruit every kid. And then I'd have 50 kids in day one. And then Monday of the following week, I'd have, 32. And then the following week, I'd have 22. And you're like, we got to change this strategy. Instead of I'm recruiting everybody, what's going to make sense? Okay, give you a couple minutes. Please share. Who are you recruiting? Any tips, successes? Let's try that again that come to mind, okay? Give you a few minutes. I'll call us back up as a big group. I'll leave those on the board. That way we're getting the wisdom of the crowd.
Whatever level you're high school kids are all I just never recruited. I don't go around texting we're not allowed to have middle school.
Mike, do you have any idea what time I actually started and when you want me to? I'll make sure I'm done.
Yeah, we have. So about 5:45, 5:50, so about 5-10 minutes.
I will make it work. Thank you.
And then we also talk
Within the school, the pressure became, they'll take it. And then so we shifted. I still started with food, but then we, like the last guy said, we just raised the standard. And then, like, when there was a lot of restriction, we dropped, like, give them a huge class, like, 5 kids a week, first thing, way else. Those 16 that quit went around saying that like it's hard. Those coaches didn't care. College lives together.
We'll go about 2 more minutes just so we can keep everyone on time. About 2 minutes.
You have a kind of program, you build those relationships and things like that, and then the word spreads, right? And the kids do more of the recruiting than you, right? And it's, to me, at least in my experience, in 27 years now coaching, it's far more impactful when it's coming from the kids. Kids do.
Yeah. How about Iowa? How you recruit?
I mean, after my old
We'll come back in a minute.
What age group?
I mean, good students, good people.
Okay, I need this for the invitation. She's going to stay
Coming back in 30 seconds. Coming back in 10. 5. All right, and we're back. I appreciate it. I'm going to try to keep everyone on time because I know I'm probably keeping everyone between dinner, and that's a bad idea. Once you have the kids, you've got them recruited. One of the big things we focus on, developing them, especially we get them in high school. We work with our youth club, our middle school. We do some fun things. Our school, we're the Bulldogs. None of the other teams want to do it, and we said we absolutely will do it. To me, this was a guaranteed easy thing. It's called Percy the Bulldog. Kids have earned pride points or great things. A couple of our wrestlers go to the elementary schools for their assembly. Kids take their pictures with Percy. Their parents are there. They've done these great things, and we typically make sure our wrestlers are wearing some wrestling apparel while those kids are getting their pictures taken for their Bulldog of Character awards, and maybe they're talking to the parents about why wrestling would be a great fit for their kid who just won this character award. So eventually the kids do the recruiting for you. We do some fun things, bags tournament, different things just to have some fun, enjoy your time with the kids. Talk about wrestling skills, life skills. You're going to deal with some adversity with the sport. Wrestling's a sport that some days you love wrestling more than wrestling loves you. Some pictures. Middle one. Haley won 3 state titles. She's the first 3-time state champ in Wisconsin history. I'd love to tell you that one of those titles was this year. She took 3rd this year. This picture was tons of fun. These memories were great. Being in the tunnels with her down at the state tournament when she was absolutely crushed and devastated. I ain't gonna lie, I occasionally cry. I try not to, but sometimes it happens. I bawled with her. I know what she's put in her time in the sport, and we just didn't wrestle very good. We were ready. The other girl just wrestled better. She went 133-3 in her career. Fortunately, one of those was just a bad time to have that bad match. She's wrestling at Wartburg next year, and we did a ton of conversations talking. She's going to do great things. My nieces, first-year wrestlers. They just were so darn excited to put on a uniform. I talked to them when I'd see them at tournaments, and you get to see them in a different light. This young man, Will, his parents are right behind me, and when I said I'm going out here to teach, they go, please put that picture of Will up there. And I'm like, which one? And they're like, the ones where you're kneeling and you're talking to him and he is crushed. And I'm like, oh, that was super sad. And they're like, I know, but they're like, that's what you do really well, and I think that's what you need to share. So I was like, okay, they're lawyers. They are way brighter than me, so I'm taking their word on it. Will lost. Will was a U16 Greco All-American last year. Will lost at a big tournament in Christmas tournament. He really wanted to be on the podium, and he wasn't wrestling his best. He was crushed. And when Will would lose, sometimes he would be so hard on himself, and he'd lose to kids that were state champs and place finishers. He's losing to good kids, but he'd put his head down. He couldn't talk to anybody, and he didn't want to talk about anything. He'd get so frustrated, and then the rest of his day, you know exactly how it was going to turn out, and it went bad. So over the years, I get along real well with special education kids and kids that might not always react the way we want them to. I just try to stay super calm, give them space when they need it. Sometimes though, and I've known Will for 10 years, I just get on their level. I'm not a little guy, so I make sure I'm 3 feet tall, so I'm not standing over anyone to begin with, but I don't want to be in their space, make them uncomfortable. But I just looked off to the side of Will, tried to communicate. Will, just talk to me, bud. What do how we feeling? And eventually when he's ready, then he makes eye contact, and eventually I got him to the point, he's like, I should have just thrown him like a Greco match. And I said, maybe. But it's being the person your kid needs you to be. And a lot of times, I think most of us can probably remember a coach that just chewed your butt sometime. And you're like, oh man, you're really upset about it. Sometimes you got to be that soft hand that they need so they can bounce back. I'll zip through the next couple things because I'm almost done. Development. One of the things that was new for me, being part of the U14 teams, those kids did not grow up in the program. So all of a sudden you're on a bus ride to Pennsylvania with a group of 8th grade boys that you've never met before, or half of them. So tried to make it fun and think, what are some things we can do? We did questions on the hour. Now the questions back were very different because now we could talk about favorite food and other pieces. We weren't talking about food on the way out. Some of them were learning about weight management on the way out to the duels. Thankfully we weighed them because You're taking everyone on their honor. Some of them were very creative. But talk to them about, questions on the hour. I sat by each kid for a while. I used those little USA Wrestling curriculum cards of your go-to moves. Where do you like to be? How do you like to score? So that was just super helpful. We took third in Greco, fourth in freestyle. It was a super enjoyable time. I did spend time with Michael there at the Philadelphia Children's Hospital for a dislocated shoulder. Sometimes it doesn't go as planned. Last thing we're going to talk about, transitions. They never leave your program. They're with you forever, ideally. Life after graduation, doing some mentoring, whether they go to college, competing. I want kids to always feel they're part of the program. And sometimes they're no longer kids, they're young adults. My favorite picture from this whole season. Haley's going to Wartburg. I wrestled at Oshkosh. I've been pinned in Wartburg's gym probably half a dozen times. Sure, after the season, she was like, with a little overlap, there was a couple tournaments left. She's taking pictures and wanted to how does this work? I've never actually done the cameras the entire time I've been in high school. Wyatt wrestled at lacrosse this year, Division III, was a freshman, was a national qualifier for him. And on his Christmas break, Coach, can I come back and do some coaching? Absolutely. And then as we're in the chair, he goes, this is scarier than I thought. And by the end of the day, it was funny because Wyatt's a pretty conservative guy. He was definitely getting the feel of it, enjoying it, but trying to help them what might be next. My niece, at one of her tournaments, I couldn't make that one. We were at a different spot with the boys. She'd take a loss. Haley, one of our wrestlers, was talking to her afterward. Proud moment for me as a coach. And then obviously having a family member, Haley was talking to her, trying to kind of console her through the bumps in the road of wrestling. One of the things, and I got one more slide for this, family. Some of my first kids that have coached are in their 30s and they've got kids of their own. It's super neat to keep talking to them, send them messages, hear they're being great dads, great moms. I always thank all the moms take way better pictures than the dads do. Any picture my wife has with our kids, my thumb's in it, it just looks ridiculous. But it's great when they call you, tell you the things that are going well, when they got a question. Sometimes sometimes you're like, I have no idea, and you try to brainstorm it through, but you appreciate that you're helping them transition to that next phase. There's a call to action. Try to really be present, even kids that are leaving your program. Haley is always very, very serious, and her mom was trying to get a good smile for a picture. I told her that I had a white t-shirt on because I was afraid that Wartburg shirt was going to itch my skin. And then she started laughing and had a good time. This young lady, Kelly, phenomenal young lady, did not grow up in the area, but she coaches at a club I coach at. She was wrestling at a duel that was very close to our home, and she said no one had ever seen her wrestle that she knew. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then when I was talking to her, her mom and dad, with their jobs, had to work very odd hours, were never available to go. Obviously her teammates were there, but I just penciled it in. I was like, this duel is close. It's her senior year. I'm going to go there. And when I got there, she was, you actually came. It's important. You've got to show up. Obviously find the balance with your own family, because you cannot leave your own family alone for, 6 months, a year, and never see them. Turns out they get really mad. I appreciate my wife is very honest when she's like, you're doing too much. And I have to ask her, what does too much look like? And then she's very specific. And then I try to negotiate what I can change, not change. Sometimes I do okay. Sometimes it goes terrible for me. But you try to show up, be there. It's important for everyone. Hopefully, something that I shared with you will work with your program. If not, you can say I'm an idiot, totally fine. It's not going to offend me. Be there for the kids. Your communication really, really does matter. If there's anything I can support you in or your program, please just let me know. I'll share this with Mike so it can get shared out. Greatly appreciate everyone's time. Hope you learned something. Hopefully something was valuable. Keep learning, keep growing. Every day is kind of a new adventure. Very much appreciated. So thank you for your time.